Hey, welcome to our Advent series where we are taking Christmas biblically seriously. And we are looking at what does it really mean? That's what we're looking at right now. What does it really mean to get into the spirit of Christmas? You hear it said, oh man, so-and-so just has the spirit of Christmas, or man, just love the spirit of Christmas. As Christians, we want to be careful of what spirits we do and do not engage with. So I think if we're going to think about the spirit of Christmas biblically, I think it just means to exude the fruit of the Spirit. Think about love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Does that not sound like someone who you would say has the spirit of Christmas? It certainly does to me. And so I think for us to have the spirit of Christmas, we need to embody and exude the fruits of the Spirit. And we've been looking at different Christmas Bible characters and how they exude the fruit of the Spirit so that we can then do the same in our life, in our day, in our age at Christmas. And today I want to look at the fruit of gentleness. And there are several people who I think fit the bill when it comes to gentleness, but I think three in particularly fit the bill, and that would be the three wise men. Three wise men exude gentleness. Let's look at some scripture and then we'll unpack it. Let's go to Matthew chapter 2, and we'll look at verse 11. Matthew chapter 2, if you have a Bible. If not, it's totally fine. I got it for you. Matthew 2, verse 11 says this, and going into the house, they, being the wise men, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and they worshiped him. Then opening their treasures, they offered him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. Notice, these are wise men, and they walk into the house, see the child with Mary, his mother, and they fall down and they worshiped him. Talk about gentleness. I mean, let's think about just the physicality of this. Physically, these men are gentle. They walk into the house, and rather than just barging in, we've been on this big exposition. We are very important people. We are the wise men who have come from the Far East. They're not like that. They walk in and riddled with like a holy awe, gentle around the child. They're gentle around Jesus and Mary. And they, right where they're standing, they fall down, laying eyes on Jesus, and they begin to worship him. I mean, let's just think about the physical gentleness these men are exuding. They've been on a long trip. They've been looking for Mary and Joseph for a long time. Most scholars would believe that this is taking place in Egypt, not even at the stable, not even at the barn, with the manger scene. Jesus could be 2 or 3 years old in this moment when they've been refugees in Egypt that the wise men are finding them. We're not 100% certain of that, but we do know that these men have been on a long trek. We do know these men are aware they are very important people. And here's what I want you to see. They walk in, and they don't walk in with all this pomp and circumstance. They don't walk in like owning the place. They walk in meek, mild, and gentle, approaching the Messiah. I honestly think there's a posture of physical gentleness that we need to carry to the homes we are going into this Christmas season. The family members' houses, the Christmas parties, the get-togethers. What if we walked in and we made a mental choice to be a gentle presence? I'm not talking about a weak presence, but I am talking about a gentle presence, a presence that knows who you are, but knows who this really is all about. And it's actually about Jesus and people seeing Jesus. But there's a nuance of it that I want to look at further, because yes, they do show a physical gentleness here in the scriptures. But also these wise men, let's think about this. These wise men would have been Gentiles. The shepherds would have been Jews. But the wise men, no doubt in my mind, they are Gentiles walking in there. It is highly likely. The Bible does not explicitly say, but I believe these men would have been Gentiles. It means they aren't Jewish. They are not people looking for a Messiah. But even though their history and their lineage wasn't even the history and the lineage that had the oral tradition of looking for the Messiah, repeating the things of the Messiah, repeating scripture, talking about all these things, hoping one day, praying one day, adhering to the Levitical law so that one day they could be ready for Messiah. Even though that is not part of their lineage, they had a gentleness to be able to grab on to something that they weren't necessarily even born into. And in all honesty, what I believe, the fact that you have shepherds brought in who are Jews, and you have wise men brought in who are Gentiles, I believe this is a foreshadowing of the fact that Jesus and his blood, his sacrifice would be both for Jew and Gentile. First to the Jew, then to the Gentile. That you and I, as Gentiles, if you're watching this, we've been grafted in. That salvation has been made available to us. And these wise men are gentle with the things of God. We're gentle, understanding we have been invited into this thing. How I can't believe God has brought me in. I can't believe God has brought me close. I can't believe Jesus was born unto me. Like I'm not even of his people group. I'm not even of his background, his ethnicity, his lineage. But he did it for me, and he did it for you. You know, another way I think the wise men show gentleness is in how wise they were. I mean, obviously they're called wise men, but they weren't in such a hurry. Let's put it that way. They weren't in such a hurry. They were gentle with how they handle things, that an angel could speak to them in a dream and tell them not to go back to Herod, because Herod had an evil plot to take out Jesus. I know he seemed, remember we talked about Herod, he seemed like he was good, seems like he really wants to worship, but it's coming from a bad place. These wise men have a gentle enough spirit that they can hear the Lord, and when they see the Lord, respond to him appropriately. This Christmas season, you need to respond to the Lord appropriately. I pray that I respond to the Lord appropriately this season and exude a spirit of gentleness, saying, God, I'm not going to rush. God, I'm not going to make this all about me. God, I want to be gentle with what you're doing this Christmas season.